What's up, guys? We are back with another NECA Toys TMNT review, and we are taking a look at the latest in the Toon line. So this is the Target exclusive, insert your groans and your grumbles here, Target exclusive line of turtles. We have got our newest villain 2-pack. We've got Slash and Leatherhead. So this guys come in a little bit of an oversized box because we've got a really beefy figure when it comes to Leatherhead here. I believe this is some Rocksteady reuse here based on the way it looks, but we're going to see. So we've got these guys here in, again, a little bit of an oversized box for this line, but it's very familiar. You've got the green and yellow theme. You've got artwork down on the front with the two characters, and then, of course, the figures in the window. Each side has their respective figure, so Slash is on the side of the left, Leatherhead is on the side panel for the right, and then the back of the box is a product shop for both, a cross-sell with the rest of the recent figures as well as the restock for Bebop and Rocksteady, and then you've got a little bit of a write-up for TMNT itself. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here they are out of the package, our cartoon Leatherhead and our cartoon Slash from NECA Toys. These guys are two characters that I've really been looking forward to just to get some representation of different villains into this line. And these guys are very, very different when it comes to the type of figure they are. So we've had villains in the line already. We've had the Bebop and Rocksteady 2-pack, for example, but they felt very similar because they're both really big, beefy figures. They were, of course, quite different in construction, but they felt very similar. These two are very different. So Leatherhead is very much a Bebop and Rocksteady kind of figure. I'm pretty sure he's actually using Rocksteady's torso because he's got that rubber overlay. And then Slash is very much a turtle. So he's just like all of the regular turtles. And then, of course, he's very much like the video game turtle. Leatherhead is also like the video game Leatherhead, but I don't have that one yet. So he is new to me. So let's take a look at what these guys can do. We're talking about them separately because they are, of course, so very different from one another. So we're going to start with Slash, and then we're going to get on to the big guy. So as far as articulation goes, Slash is exactly what you think he is. He is very much a turtle when it comes to this line. I will say, right off the bat, though, I have had some serious stuck joint issues with this figure. He has needed constant heating to get him to move. And right now he's likely going to give me some issues because some of his joints are just so incredibly stuck, especially at the arms, the shoulder area, and the elbows, particularly his left. So as far as the head can go, it goes up pretty far. He does have kind of a jostling neck back and forth. He can look down, tilt side to side, and then full rotation. The arms can go out at the shoulder. And I mean, they're really, really tight. They can go out. They can rotate up there. You've got the shell to deal with as usual. We've got our bicep swivel. We've got single jointed rotating elbow. And see, it's going to pop right out on me because I keep having issues with the joint actually getting stuck there. So I'll have to heat him back up again, I suppose. It's not the end of the world, but it is an annoyance right now. We've got hinges and rotation at the wrist. There is, of course, a little bit of articulation inside the shell. So you've got a what I believe is a ball peg up in there. So he has a little bit of wiggle at what would be his turtle waist. Legs do go out pretty much all the way. They kick forward pretty good. A little bit on the back kick. You've got your thigh cut up there. We've got double jointed knees, which I really do still like in this line. And then you've got a ball peg down at the ankle. So you've got rotation, you've got a little bit of rock action, and then there's hinge forward and backward. So he does move exactly how you would expect. I mean, if you have any familiarity with the turtles in this line, then you know what's going on. My only real issue is the fact that so much on him was stuck and so much needed to be heated. I mean, when I run through it on what needed to be heated, it was the shoulders, the elbows, the thighs, and the knees on this guy as well. A lot of him, the overwhelming majority of him, was just stuck right out of the box. Everything on him moves relatively okay now, except for the elbows. They just keep locking into place, and it just seems like there's no clearance between the joint and the arm. So I'm not too sure if it's going to cause a problem. I'm going to have to be very cautious with it, but otherwise he moves exactly like I expect him to. Now, when it comes to the aesthetics, this guy is, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but he's very familiar territory because he is very similar to the arcade turtle figure that we've gotten, but of course he's also very similar to the rest of the turtles. So there's a lot of reuse here, but that's fine. It's to be expected. He does have a lot of differences though from his shell design, at least compared to the regular TMNT, the kind of armor on him, his head sculpt, of course, and then little details like the belt, and then of course he does have the backpack. I will say though that Slash was only cool to me as a kid because of his toy, not because of the cartoon design. I'm really happy to get this version of him but the vintage toy is always and forever going to be where it's at when it comes to this particular turtle. So they couldn't be further apart from each other, really, which is one of those weird oddities when it comes to the cartoon versus the toy line for TMNT. But this guy is really well done. I mean, he very much looks like he jumped right out of the screen. So it does have that very cel-shaded, very matte finish when it comes to a lot of the details, specifically the armor. So you can see, you know, it's got like that kind of matte blue and matte purple when it comes to the spikes, the pads, and then of course his belt with that little skull design there. You've got the yellow claws on the hands and the feet, and then you've got his awesome, I love his shell design. I think it looks really cool, in particular on the arcade turtle, and this is the same sculpt, it's just got a different paint scheme. So you've got the yellow spikes and then just a regular brown turtle shell. He does have his backpack here, which has a strap that's actually connected. It is a loose fitting piece, it's not actually attached to the figure itself, and I do worry that the type of material this is, like, it feels like it's kind of stressed. I'm not really sure if it can be positioned too much better. I've kind of loosened it up a little bit from how it was in the box, but I feel like any wrong movement might snap one of these, and so I'm trying to be as careful as possible with it. The last thing I want to do is break this, because it is kind of a defining characteristic for Slash here. So you've got the backpack with, again, more of that cartoony matte look and feel with varying shades of blue and gray and kind of like a almost a teal gray inside there, and he looks fantastic. I mean, as far as aesthetics go, I think they really nailed it. NECA, of course, does a tremendous job when it comes to translating cartoon to figure form, and a lot of that, though, I mean, it comes down to the head sculpt, because it really is his defining characteristic from the other versions, specifically the video game, specifically the vintage toy, outside of, well, many other differences there. But he's got that really just kind of slightly evil but really dorky look about him. You know, he's got the kind of slack-jawed mouth with those big chunky teeth in there, all the warts around his cheeks and on top of his head, and then he's got that visor with one eye exposed, and then he's got the kind of you know, goggle almost over top of it with some yellow there. So he does look really good. Again, he looks like he jumped right out of the show. I'm really happy with the overall presentation and paint and sculpt. Everything, parts reuse is really well done here. Again, it's not my preferred version of Slash, but this looks exactly like the show. Leatherhead, by comparison, is a much different figure. So this guy is very much in line with your Bebop and Rocksteady kind of figures. He is really big, and he is very much a different type of body style to the Turtles. So as far as moving him around, he is still kind of familiar because, again, if you've had any of the bigger figures so far, you kind of know what to expect, but he does have some unique stuff going on. So the head can go up about that far. He's always kind of like at a downward angle, but he can go up about that far. He goes down really, really good, which works really well when he's actually looking at the Turtles, and then you can tilt side to side. You can rotate, but of course, you know, he is a different type of creature, so his head rotation isn't the same as just spinning 360, but that's okay. And then you've got an articulated jaw, and it goes about that far. It does kind of want to close on itself because it hits the throat, so you've got to kind of position the head correctly. Arms go out at the shoulders about that far. They rotate around all the way around, nothing really gets in the way. You've got your bicep swivel. Got double jointed elbows here, and again, just like with Slash, mine were really, really, really tight, and they continue to be not as tight as Slash's. And again, these are different because they're double joints instead of a single with a peg, but they have still needed quite a bit of heat. His wrists also needed quite a bit of heat as well. You've got hinges and rotation there. He is like Rocksteady when it comes to his torso, so you've got the kind of rubber overlay, and he really just sort of twists at the waist. Well, sort of right around a little bit higher than the waist. He doesn't really have anything as far as a crunch or tilt or anything like that. He's mostly just a twist. The legs go out pretty much all the way. There is a little bit of a rubber crotch piece there. They kick forward about that far. That's basically 90 degrees, but it's a tight fit. They go backwards a little bit. You do have a thigh twist up there. You've got your double jointed knees. They go back decently enough, but they don't really go too far back inward on the body. Really tight there as well. You've got hinges and rocker at the ankle, and I'm going to talk about this now because this is apparently an issue that's been popping up from figure to figure. You may or may not see this. My figure has peach-ish colored joints for the ankles. They were painted. This one has chipped off over time. This one was chipped off in the box. I find it to be an incredible eyesore on an otherwise really solid figure aesthetically. This is a huge issue for me personally because it just very much throws off the look of the figure. I know that some folks have had theirs, and I believe they've said that they've gotten blue joints. I've seen one person that said they had a blue and a peach one, so like they were mismatched somehow. In some instances, you can kind of hide it based on how he's posed, but of course I know it's there. So that's kind of a weird thing. Functionally it's fine, but aesthetically it's kind of a mess. You've got a tail here as well. This is a separate piece. You do have to put it on. You might need to heat this up to get it to work. I did not, so you might, but I would probably urge you to just be careful with it anyway. So you've got a ball peg there. You can tilt side to side, you can rotate, and then he goes up and down a little bit. There's not a great deal of range of motion in there, but you can kick it out to the side a little bit just to add a little bit of flair to the figure. It doesn't really throw off balance too much either. It's kind of heavy, but the figure itself weighs so much that it really doesn't seem to matter. But otherwise, he does move pretty well. Of course, I did have a few issues with stuck joints here and there, but otherwise, very much in line with Bebop, Rocksteady, and the larger figures in this line so far. Now, aesthetically, this guy, of course, very much stands out from, well, not only his two-pack counterpart, but from the line in general, because he's an alligator. So he is very much different from everything else we've gotten, unless, of course, you've got the arcade version. Again, I don't have that yet. It's just not here yet, so we will assume for now that he is unique, at least for me. And I think NECA did a bang-up job here. Really happy with everything. If I have one problem, it's the ankle thing I've already mentioned. That is a big eyesore. I don't like it. Frankly, I don't know an easy way to fix it without actually going in there and starting to shave the joint down and then paint it, and I'm not going to do that. I don't want to make him any more unstable. So I don't like that. I'm not going to go into too much more on it because it is what it is. I've already talked about it. The rest of the figure, though, I think he's pretty great. I really like the fact that they use the Rocksteady concept here, where he's got kind of like the overlay on the chest here. So it's, you know, the big kind of rubbery piece. It makes him look a lot bigger and bulkier. It makes him look, I mean, it makes him look huge. And he is a very heavy, big figure. So we'll do some size comparisons and I'll compare him against other figures as well. But he is really big and beefy. I really like the color choices as far as the shading goes. So of course, they've got the thing with this line where it's one color on the front, one color on the back. And this is a blue to green, which I think works really well as far as just color choice, but then in terms of his swamp motif, I think that's nicely done. It kind of just brings out that color scheme a little bit better. The line work on all of the ridges and the scales on the body work really well, especially on the chest and underneath the tail. There's a lot of that there. The spikes that run down the tail look really good. The jacket's nicely detailed with the line work to accentuate all the little wrinkles on it. And yeah, I mean, it just comes down to really a handful of things. His uniqueness, the fact that they translated this design into figure form really well, and his size. He should be really big, and he is a very hulking figure when it comes to this line. A lot of that really comes through with the inclusion of a tail that makes him a lot deeper, or, you know, wider, depending on how you got imposed. And then, of course, this head sculpt, which adds more depth to him on the front. So you've got the open mouth with the tongue in there, more of that line work, those yellow alligator eyes, and then you've got more of that green to blue shading. And, of course, you've got his hat up there, which has, you know, kind of the brim of the hat lifted up, so it looks like, you know, he's kind of been on the bayou. And, yeah. He's really cool looking. That's really what it comes down to. I don't have any criticisms on the aesthetics or the style of this figure outside of that. That is probably just a factory mistake in terms of when they started putting this guy together. Still, it's a mistake, it's a problem, I don't like it, but the rest of this guy is really, really well done and shows, again, just how well NECA can translate cartoon to figure. And then for a quick size comparison, here we've got Leatherhead in the middle, obviously, since he's the biggest. You've got Slash next to him, and then we've got Rocksteady to give you an idea of what they look like next to one of the other really large figures in this line. So you can see that Leatherhead is still slightly taller than Rocksteady. He's a little bit taller than Bebop as well. So there is a lot of size to this guy. And then, of course, you can see that Slash is very much in line with the other turtles and how he scales with all the other big figures. So we'll move him aside. And let's do another NECA. So here he is with the Foot Soldier. And let's do a figure art. So here is Goku. And let's do a more traditional 6-inch scale figure. So an older Stormtrooper, because I still don't have the new one yet. And then for a much bigger figure that definitely is not really within scale for either of these guys. Here is the Apocalypse Build-A-Figure. So you can see that he still very much towers over Leatherhead, but you can see that this guy has a lot of bulk. And then, of course, I mean, Slash is very much dwarfed by him. So they do have good size. They definitely scale well together. And then they fit really nicely with a bunch of other lines, especially within the confines of the NECA Toon line, too. And of course we have to do this as well. We've got our comparison between vintage figure and our cartoon figure. So, I mean, you can see there's really not much to compare to, especially when it comes to Leatherhead. These guys could not be further apart. This is really just a alligator that's wearing clothes and some boots, and he has a shotgun on his back. Whereas Slash, of course, is still very much in the same realm, but this guy is so much more gnarly, so much more evil looking. They really still don't seem like the exact same kind of character. So you can get an idea of what I'm talking about just when it comes to the disparity between cartoon and vintage figure. It was so crazy in certain instances in that line, how things just did not line up at all. And Leatherhead is a huge example of that. Slash isn't as crazy, but still, they are very far apart. This guy is still my preferred design, just by a long shot. Now, as far as accessories goes, this set it's pretty stacked. Like, there's so much stuff in this box. Honestly, it might have too many accessories. I know that seems kind of crazy to say, but there's stuff in here that I know I'm just never, ever going to use. But I do like the fact that NECA kind of goes all out when it comes to this stuff. For folks that are going to use it, you're going to love some of this stuff. So, I don't know, let's just kind of run through it. We'll start with Slash's stuff. So you've got his swords. These are just pretty basic swords. Gray, black, with a little tan. They are probably going to scratch his hands up when you put him in his hands. I have had to heat him up to get his stuff to be held. Another instance where I've had to heat that figure up, he does not want to hold some of his weapons. This gun in particular, he does not want to hold. So you've got that, a double-barreled kind of blaster rifle with 2 grips on it, and it really scratches his hands up. This thing is really cool, though, as far as sculpt goes. A lot of paint detail, very cartoony. Really dig this one, just in terms of overall design. Then we've got this little guy here, which has these little rubbery nozzles that come out of it. Some of these things I honestly just don't remember anymore from the show, because it's been a while since I've watched some of this stuff. But this thing is pretty wild as far as the overall sculpt. Tons of detail. He holds it pretty decently. Again, it's one of those things where I've still had trouble actually getting it into his hands. You've got I don't know, maybe a third eaten pizza, so I'm glad we're getting different pizza stuff now. So in terms of just something that's a little bit more unique, something that's not just the same retread over and over again, so you've got a few bites because he doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to eating pizza. But my favorite accessories when it comes to Slash really aren't even his accessories. They more go with Bebop and Rocksteady. So you've got Baby Slash here, which is just this little tiny turtle, which I really like the idea of them including this. And then you've also got his binky, so the little palm tree that was in his little fish bowl. So this thing is really cool. I mean, there's nothing crazy about it. It's just a little tree, but it's something you could give him. And then, of course, you could put both of these together with Bebop and Rocksteady, or with Shredder if you wanted to do that kind of stuff. So you've got the options, just have a little bit more unique stuff going on with him that's very specific to the cartoon. Leatherhead, by comparison, has, I guess they have about the same amount of stuff. Leatherhead's is just kind of crazy when it comes to what it is. So he has extra hands to start with. Slash does not. Slash is what you see is what you get, just 2 gripping hands. So Leatherhead has 2 open palm style gripping hands. These can be used to hold the butt of a gun. So you've got those, and you've also got a gripping hand. It's not really a trigger finger hand, it's more of a traditional gripping hand, because he comes with 2 fists in the box. And then you got an actual trigger finger hand, which goes for this gun. And I will say that I did have more trouble getting this gun into this hand. Once it's in there, it is definitely in there. So you've got the kind of double-barreled shotgun kind of thing here, which is very unique, very TMNT cartoon style. Really dig this. I'm very happy with his assortment because it's weird, it's goofy. Some of it, again, is stuff I'm probably never going to use, but it's goofy and it's weird and I really like it. So we've got the little crawfish that hang off of his belt. I haven't found a really good way to actually get these to hang off his belt all that well. Maybe with a twist tie or something like that. But they're kind of rubbery with as far as the claws go, so maybe be careful with these. I don't think they're going to break or anything, but they are definitely a very pliable material. But I do like these because it's kind of a hallmark of him. We've got a trap, so you can pop this down, and it's got a hinging jaw on it, so you can get a turtle stuck in that. And then you've got a collar with a real metal chain. So, I mean, we need some, I think we need some frogs for this, I would say. I mean, you can use it on anybody, I suppose, but I would love to have, you know, a Napoleon Bona frog in this or something like that. So a real metal chain, and then you've got the opening and closing clasp there. But the stuff that he's got that I'm really happy they included, despite the fact that I'm probably not going to use it, at least not in my display, are his kind of nets and traps, and this. He comes with this massive rope. So you can wrap this around a turtle, tie him up, and then drag him along. And this is a serious rope too. I mean, this is legit as far as size and overall kind of thickness and how durable it seems to be. I mean, this is just a piece of rope that they threw in there, and I'm really happy that they included it, because I know a lot of folks are going to be able to get some serious use out of this when it comes to photography. Just not me. And then we've got the big net that, of course, you know, kind of goes with his gun. So this is a big monster net. It's got the four corners with the ties, so you can actually, you know, kind of tie it up like this and have it be a trap that you can spring on some unsuspecting turtles, and then you can throw them in there, and then you can hoist them up into your display or whatever you want to do. So again, it's something that I'm probably not going to use. That's not the point of that, though. I know somebody's going to get good use out of it. It's a really cool inclusion. Like, it's definitely very unique, very specific kind of stuff to Leatherhead. It's one of those things that NECA goes out of their way to ensure is in the box. So, yeah, I mean, they come with a lot of stuff. There's probably more in this box than you might have expected, and I know that I was surprised to see all of this in there, but I'm really happy that they kind of went all out to give us all of this stuff, because it really runs the gamut of everything these guys should have. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this 2-pack. Honestly, there's just so much stuff in here, and that's really what it comes down to. You're getting a lot of figure and a lot of accessories for your money on this one. That said, I do have some serious concerns about the overall construction of these two figures, because this is the first set in a while that I have had to heat up just about everything on. Joints, hands, all of it. Pretty much everything on both of these figures. Slash more so than Leatherhead, but they needed some serious heat, and I still think Slash is way too tight for his own good. I'm concerned that I'm going to break one of those arms. I mean, you saw the joint pop out on camera. So yeah, I do have those issues, but as far as aesthetics go, build, the overall sculpt, I think NECA did a fantastic job here. Leatherhead is so much cooler in person than I had expected, and again, they come with so much stuff as far as accessories goes, a lot of weird stuff, a lot of new stuff, and I'm really just overall happy with this set as far as getting two new, very important villains, outside of the fact that I do have some very stuck joints on these two guys. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Cartoon, Slash, and Leatherhead. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.